Jacques, I'm a young professional, so I'm now going to submit my taxes for the very first time. So I've taken the first step. I've registered myself now on for e-filing. So what comes next? Hi everybody, it's been a week since we decided to switch from the paperclip report from a newsletter to video content, and I have to say the responses were overwhelming. Thank you very much to each and everybody for your text messages, your Facebook messages and your phone calls. I really do appreciate your support. One of my objectives is to add value to the lives of ordinary people like myself and you, to ensure that we use whatever we have to our advantage. So one thing that I've learned through life is that you can't be experts in every single thing. So my expertise lies with financial services, and for this week I wanted to bring you some information on tax matters, income tax, how to submit, how to file, do your e-filing. And for that, I invited Jacques Bouwer to come have a coffee with us and to give us some tips and a little bit of guidance on how to submit and how to use everything that we have to our advantage. Jacques, want to tell us a bit about yourself?
I'm Jacques Bouwer, registered professional accountant with SAIPA and registered tax practitioner, founder of JB Accounting Vantage.
So Jacques, I was under the impression that tax season started the 1st of July. That's why I invited you for coffee and then just help our viewers to, to get themselves sorted. But now you told me differently. So what's going on?
Yes, Jolene, due to the whole COVID pandemic and SARS implementing systems, etc., that the e-filing season is actually will open 1st of September 2020 for e-filers. And they would have then from 1st of September until 16 November to get their affairs in order.
Oh. Jacques, we have viewers that's obviously of different life stages. We have the youngsters that recently start out being employed and may have to file tax for the very first time. Then you have our seasoned viewers like me. I mean, I'm almost like a half a century old. And there's other factors that you have to keep in mind, when you file your tax. And then we also have small business owners and entrepreneurs that may need the assistance of a tax consultant. And as you know, as a small business owner, you don't always have the money to employ the services of a tax consultant. And in a lot of cases, we do our own thing. We submit the way we think we should, and we're not doing ourselves any favors. I mean, I'm sure you've, recently I contacted you, for example, to say, please help, I'm stuck, whatever. So I think it's a great idea for people to actually seek the help of a tax consultant. But also with this video, we thought, I thought it would be great if you can give some tips and guidance in terms of that. So maybe start with if you can maybe give us the young people, the first time filers, some info on what to do when you file or before you register yourself on the e-file system. What information do you need to have on hand?
Yeah, Jolene, so for your first timers, I would say definitely is it to first and foremost make sure that you are registered for income tax and have a valid South African tax number with SARS. And normally that would be or should be on your payslip or your IRP5 from your employer. That should be on there. But then also the other method is you can actually just give the SARS contact center a call. And they could provide you with your tax number if you are registered, if you're uncertain. And therefore you would just need your valid South African ID number, and then they should be able to check for you on that. And then with regards to first timers and registering for e-filing, it's as easy as going onto the SARS e-filing website and have your personal, your valid South African ID with you. You could have your banking details, your physical address, and all that normal, almost I want to say FICA documentation just on hand, so that you have all the necessary information on hand when you do the registering process on the e-filing site. And it's as easy as that. And once you have that, and you can actually obtain a tax reference number. If you don't have a tax number yet, you can also do it via the e-filing website these days. So it's as easy as that.
So Jacques, I'm a young professional. So I'm now going to submit my taxes for the very first time. So I've taken the first step. I've registered myself now on for e-filing. So what comes next?
So for any first-time e-filer or individual that just started working and now come across it, listen, it's now my filing season is upon me, where do I go, what do I do? Once you've registered for the e-filing, that's almost 75% of the work done. Now it's just basically making sure that you have all your necessary documentation ready and make sure where to get it, etc. And maybe I can shed some light on that, is that your IRP5 comes from your employer. He should provide you with that. Normally that would be by May, June, they can supply you already with that information. And then any other information you might have, a lot of it will already be pre-populated on your e-filing profile once you open it and select the tax season you're in. SARS would have a lot of that information because employees or employers, they need to submit that information, and SARS has it on hand, including your medical aid, any retirement annuity, and things like that, external documents that you can get. That always, nowadays, it's all electronically and will be sent to you automatically by the service provider that you do have. So it's just making sure have all that information on hand as well, and just have it ready and double check basically whatever you see might be populated on your e-filing return.
Okay, so you now mentioned, Jacques, that we have to check if our information is on system because it's pre-populated already. So what information are you talking about?
Jolene, when it comes to just double checking the pre-populated information that SARS do have and get from other service providers and third parties, it's all basically happens the same like your employer would submit their IRP5 reconciliations yearly beforehand, and that's how SARS obtains their information, etc. So if a person or a young individual now filing for the first time has a retirement annuity, medical aid, and all those add-on benefits they do have as individuals, then it's just important to see that tax certificates that they do get from the medical aid and the retirement annuity, like you would recommend to your clients with financial advice, say, listen, my retirement annuity is a tax benefit for myself. So it's just important to make sure that they have their tax certificate from that third party person or company, and then double check that that information is correctly captured on their e-filing return that's pre-populated with SARS. So that's just important. When they do get their medical aid certificate, their retirement annuity certificate, just double check that contributions that they do have on that pre-populated return.
Because there's various factors that we have to keep in mind. I mean, I struggled myself with a submission that I've done last year, and it was only sorted out recently, and not because SARS is not doing something right, it's because of information that I did not submit, or things that I've done wrong, and that obviously causes the delay. So won't you maybe take us through some of the information that we need to keep in mind and we need to submit in order to ensure that there's two things I think people want to get out of it. Most of us obviously want a return, and on the flip side, if you're not going to get a refund, then you rather want it to break even, but nobody wants to pay money into SARS. So if you can maybe give us some info and insight and tips, maybe how to go about it and what is important to submit with your income tax.
Yes, Julian, when it gets to your more seasoned e-filers and taxpayers, and especially people with more than one source of income, especially if they have rental properties, etc., and maybe sole traders out there that earn their extra income on the side and still employed by employer. That gets quite technical, but normally you would play it safe, and it should be your pay as you earn should be deducted by your employer when you earn your basic salary and just a salary earner. There shouldn't be too much problems, but when you start earning commissions and you can get deductions and stuff like that, what I'm assuming you're referring to, then it gets quite technical that you do keep a handle on your expenses and just know your boundaries within that, limitations on what there is, especially with rental income, that you do keep your expenses and keep that in line and know where you stand, especially when you deal with that type of thing, that you just make sure this is my income, that's my expenses, and know that on that additional income, say listen, that it might throw me into a higher income tax bracket because I'm already earning a salary. Now I need to make certain, obviously if my employer does not know about my other income source, you are potentially in trouble of paying obviously too little pay as you earn, and you need to make sure that you do keep a handle on that other side. And that's the basic big important thing that you just need to bear in mind when you get to that side of the income tax.
So Jacques, what can we use to our advantage? I mean, when we file, I know that you now talk about expenses when you get rental income, for example. What can we use to our advantage? The normal things that you mentioned earlier for the first time e-filers is your retirement annuity contributions and things like that. But what other expenses can we use to our advantage when we file for tax?
Yeah, all that information does get quite technical when you start delving into that source of income of what a person might have. The general rule of thumb is that, listen, your commission earners need to be 50% of the income needs to be commission based. Then you can start deducting expenses that is in course of earning that income. For instance, you use your cell phone, the motor vehicle that you use, and then obviously when it comes to vehicles, that it's very important that you do keep a correct logbook and log your business kilometers travel for that specific vehicle that you use for that. And when it comes to rental income, there is your maintenance with regards to that property, your bank fees on a bond, your interest on a bond, so not the mortgage payments, that's a big no-no, but the interest on that bond is deductible, so not the physical bond repayments, but the interest on that bond. And yeah, that type of, so if you are as the lessor, you can deduct that expenses from that rental income that you obtain from the lessee. So if you and so that's the levies, bank charges, interest, and that type of thing that you can, and then all your basic other stuff as well, like your normal taxpayers, like a retirement annuity, also becomes important because you might have a higher income bracket that you can deduct a retirement annuity from, because you can up into a maximum of 350,000 worth of contributions you can have as a deduction from your taxable income if you're in that type of income tax bracket. Yeah, so it's a lesser of 27.5% of that taxable income, or 350,000 is the max that you can deduct. So it is very important to make that calculation and bear in mind if you are in the position of having to provide for your future, let's call it that, that you bear that in mind. Say, listen, if you earn more than one source of income, that you make provision, enough provision for that.
Guys, I hope you found this information as informative as I did. If you have any questions or you need the help of Jacques to see you through your e-filing tax for the tax year, I will leave his contact details in the description below.